What's up, guys? It's your boy Ethan. Hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another WSOP summer tournament vlog. This is not the WSOP, it's the Wynn. There's an $1,100 tournament today. I bagged yesterday. I maxed late reg, one buy-in of an $1,100 buy-in, $1.5 million guarantee. I bagged 5.5x starting. Not a whole lot of chips, but 20 big blinds today, and we're in the money already. And there's like about 260 players-ish left here in day two, and it's a really ridiculous one. $440,000 for first place, or a little bit more than that too, for a $1,000 buy-in. Pretty sick spot. So yeah, it should be a fun one. Hopefully it's a long day. If you guys see this video, then hopefully it means things went well. But it's nice to have another cash this summer, especially off of one bullet in this 1K. So yeah, here back at the Wynn. Always love playing here, to be honest with you. And let's try to get that Wynn trophy. Let's get a second one today.
Let's get to building here in this day two. We're at level 17 to restart day two with blinds at 4K, 8K, 8K. I pick up sixes in the hijack and raisings up to 16,000. Small blind goes all in for a short stack of 63K. I'm never going to be folding a pair here against an 8 big blind shove. I make the call versus ace, jack, and we're going to flip.
That's a pretty good flop for you.
Lose this one on a jack high flop, unfortunately, and I'm down to 16 big blinds and a dream. Let's try to chip up with nines in the cutoff. There's an under the gun raise to 20,000. 2.5x is very strong from early position. The +2 player, who's the chip leader of the table, makes the call. So a little bit scary of a situation with an EP open and an EP call. Oh well, got to rip it all in. I'm too short stacked to care about this. I'm all in. Other player ends up making the call with ace king. I'm very lucky that it's a flip. Now I need to get luckier to win this one and somehow hold with the nines. Nines beats ace king here, and I'm back up to 225,000 just like that. We're back, baby. In the following hand, following level, small blind shoves 12 big blinds when action folds to him, and I wake up pocket tens. Easy call. I'm in there, and we see we're up against king 9 offsuit, and life's pretty good when you flop a set. Now, from 225,000, I pick up a 12 big blind stack, and we're back to 350,000. It's always nice to be peaking in this tournament at the latest that we're running. We're chipping up here and finding creative ways to win chips. Next level, picking up queen 6 offsuit in the big blind versus the cutoff open. He looks like the chip leader, certainly someone who could get out of line and raise a little bit wider, so trying to punish that a little bit. I go for a non-standard raise here, 3-bet pre-flop to 110,000. Good old queen 6 offsuit, you know, the best of the best hands in the world. He makes the call, so we're going to battle out of position here to a flop of jack, jack 8 rainbow. A little bit mixed feelings on this board here with the board being paired. I just wish I had a jack, so I'm going to slow down and check here. Maybe I got a little bit too ambitious, but when my opponent checks this one back, I think that's going to give me the green light to go ahead and bet. Turn comes the 5 of clubs, and you know, I hope he doesn't have a jack. I hope he doesn't have a pair. I throw out a bet of 120,000. It's about a half-sized pot bet, and luckily my opponent folds, so nice to win this one. I steal over 100,000 chips from my opponent, and we're chipping up well over 600,000 now before arriving at this hand. It's a fun one. I have queen jack of clubs on the button. There's a hijack player who limps for 12,000. Cutoff makes the call. I'm confused, not sure what to make of this limp and a call. Seems like they could have some very weak hands. So I raise it up pre-flop to 40,000. Trying to take the initiative, trying to be the aggressor here. And when both players end up making the call, very, very strange. Like I said, they're playing about 300,000 effective. So not a whole lot to play for, but we're going to a flop of ace, deuce, deuce, 2 diamonds. I think this is a very, very safe flop for me overall. Mainly being that I think the strongest ace-x is going to be all in on pre-flop, or at least it wouldn't limp. Anyways, when action checks to me, I'm going to be blasting on an ace-high board. I bet 40,000, and I get the hijack player to make the call. So we've thinned down the field from winning against 2 other opponents to just 1. Heads up to a turn, which is the 6 of spades. It's a brick, and my opponent checks it over to me. My opponent has about 240,000 left behind, so it's about the size of the pot. I could go all in, or I could get a little bit tricky here, and I decided to throw out a smaller bet of 70,000. Decided to bet small here as I think I would do this with all of my strongest hands. And I think if I were to bet pot, all of my value hands wouldn't really choose this size. So my opponent goes into the tank forever. And he's displaying a lot of live tells, I think. It's pretty clear that my opponent doesn't have an ace when he thinks this long and kind of talking out loud at himself. So maybe some sort of pocket pair. I'm hoping he can fold, but he does not. He actually ends up making the call. So it's a little bit of a dicey spot, and we're going to a river, which is another ace. Ooh, it's very scary now at this point because I'm repping an ace. It's hard to represent that when there's two aces on the board. And when my opponent checks one last time, this might be an insane punt, but I think I have to go for it. Continue telling my story that I have a very strong hand. I go all in for about 170,000 effective. And once again, my opponent is in the tank. At this point now, we're actually on break after playing the first 2 levels of the day. But yeah, my opponent can take as much time as he wants. Everyone has left the table at this point, besides a few spectators that want to see what's going on. And luckily, he announces a fold and tells me he had pocket queens. Very unlikely to have queens because I had a queen, but he certainly didn't have an ace. I somehow got him to fold a much better hand than mine. And queen high is going to take it down, stealing a pile of chips from another opponent at the table. And just like that, with almost 900,000 chips, it's a very productive start to this day too.
Hey guys, quick interruption as I'm actually about to stream on WPT Global right now. I stream about once a week, so if you want to be in tune and want to join the live streams, then click that notification bell every time I go live. But I've been getting some good reps in every single Sunday on this site here. So there's a bunch of tournaments going on. See, there's 100, 300, mini slam, $11 tournament on WPT Global here. So I'm going to show you guys the software because it's a good way to get some tournament reps. And if you're going to come for WSOP, fun fact, if you win all 3 of these in a single month, you win $100,000, which is kind of sick. But on top of that, there's a bunch of cash games. So there's some high stakes stuff that runs every single day, some mid stake stuff that's more accessible to play at the very least. Everything is in Chinese yuan. And then you have some low stakes like 1-2 games, and then some micros, 50 cent, not 50 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent, 20 cent games. There's infinite tables of that running right now. And you can see if I scroll to the bottom, these are all the full games. So there's infinite games to play if you wanted to hop in on WPT Global. Click the link in the description down below. Use the code Rampage for a $1,200 deposit bonus. 100% deposit bonus match. You deposit $1,200, you get a free $1,200. So softest site to play in my opinion. I'm doing quite well on there whenever I stream. And yeah, come check it out if you are outside the US and in a place that WPT Global serves. So there's that. That's my pitch. I'm playing it all the time. Hop in the games with me. You'll see me in the streets quite frequently and see me in those Sunday tournaments. And yeah, click the link in the description below. Let's try to win this Wynn tournament.
All right, that was a very long hand at break. I have like 5 minutes left to break. Very good 2 hours, safe to say. Started with 170, now have 900. Glad the bluff got there. He told me he had queens after the fact, which is kind of crazy. So glad he folded the queens. Glad he didn't limp jam or something. I mean, he only had like 25 bigs to start. Dicey. He begged me to show the bluff too, which is fun. I'm not going to go in the bathroom. I'm about to go to the bathroom. I'm not going to record and go to the bathroom. He begged me to show the bluff. Can't do that, of course. Too big of a spot to show bluffs here. I'll do it in cash games. I can't do it in tournaments. But hoping for a long day. It's been a very, very good 2 hours from 170 to 900. 6 star. Moving on. After the break, let's continue building a pickup ace-queen offsuit and raise it up to 30,000. So recreational player in the small blind basically goes all in for about 250,000. I end up putting the rest of the chips in there as I cover him, and he calls with pocket jacks. We've got a flip, hopefully a big one. It's almost a third of our stack. Let's win.
Stuck there for so.
Sadly, we lose this one. That's how tournaments go, but no time to cry about it because I pick up pocket queens the next hand in early position, raise it up to 30,000, and I get a good player in the hijack to make the call. Going heads up out of position, the flop comes 9, 6, 4, all diamonds. Not very great. I have no repair. I don't have a diamond. I'm going to check it to my opponent who throws out a small bet of 30,000. I'm not going to go anywhere here. Of course, I'm not going to be folding my overpairs. He can be bluffing. He can be value betting with worse, but I'm definitely not going to check raise and amp up the aggression. I just make the call. Turn comes a queen though, so just a good old turned top set. I check and flow to my opponent again, and this time he throws out a bit of 100,000 with roughly 400,000 behind. Definitely going through all the thoughts in my head whether I want to check raise or just make the call. The issue about check raising is that I'm basically repping flushes, and I don't have one. So I just make the call here thinking check raising is a little bit too thin, and we're going to see a river, which is the ace of spades. This could be a very good card if my opponent was bluffing with just the naked ace of diamonds. I check one more time to my opponent, and I'm expecting him to probably shove a lot of the time, but this time he decides to bet 150,000. This is a very strange spot. My opponent, counting it out from my perspective, looks like he has about 300,000 chips behind. And I go into the tank for a while here, mainly thinking if my hand is ever going to go all in. I definitely don't want to cooler myself, if I go all in and get snapped off by a flush. But one thing I could get value from are lower sets. So if I somehow turn to 2 outer, or if he had, two pair of some sort, it's going to be hard to fold. So I think I just got to go for it and cooler him if he has sets. I go all in. Tricky thing about this river situation is that my opponent didn't hear me say all in. So it actually reveals his cards thinking that I called. And I can see his holdings. He's showing pocket sixes. Pretty amazing. Nice that I went all in here hoping to give myself more chips. Nice to know that I'm not beat by a flush. But now I'm waiting. Will my opponent call? And he quickly ends up folding. Pretty sick bet fold on the river here. Very tricky spot because there was some sort of miscommunication going on in this hand. And I don't end up making the maximum, but it was a very, very welcome sight to see that queen on the turn. I'm running good and winning pots. Moving on to level 22, picking up King Jack offsuit back at 900,000 roughly. I raise it up to 65,000 here with a very short stack in the big blind. He's sitting up with about 8 big blinds, it seems. He ends up making the call, so we get to isolate against a short stack, and the flop comes Jack, 6, 3, 2 clubs. What else can I ask for with top pair, good kicker? My opponent thinks for a while and ends up actually lead shoving for his entire stack. Obviously, gonna make the call. I think my hand's pretty good here, of course, and my opponent shows ace 6. Second pair and a dream. The run out crushes those said dreams. I stack my opponent. There's about 155 players left in this tournament, and I'm sitting on a whopping 1.2 million chips. We are spinning right now. Moving on to the next level, blinds are just getting crazier and crazier. Picking up ace-king offsuit on the button. There's an undergun who goes all in for 300,000. People are sitting very, very short stacked. I'm easily going to rejam for about 25 big blinds. My opponent shows king, queen offsuit. We end up flopping an ace, and that's going to say GG's to my opponent, who's a pretty solid online player, so nice playing with you. But yeah, I'm running good right now, getting the right hands at the right times, and there's no need to think about it because the very next deal, picking up ace-queen offsuit, we've got the heat today. There's a low jack raised to 90,000 off of a 500k stack. Looks like a recreational player, and I decided to go for a small 3-bet instead of forcing my opponent all in. I throw out a bet and raise of 225,000 with some good cards, ace queen. And now the player to my left, who certainly seems like he's not playing many hands. He also watches the channel, so shout out to you. He actually makes the call of my 225,000 raise. It's honestly really scary, to be honest, with how I'm feeling right now. I saw my opponent fold jacks pre-flop, so for him to basically commit his entire stack all in, it's a weird one because he only has about 130,000 chips left behind. Somehow, to my surprise, the low jack player ends up folding. So we're going to go heads up to a flop. But before the flop is out, I just put my opponent all in. I want to make my decisions very easily. He only has 130,000. There's no chance I'm ever folding when the pot is well over 500,000 chips. So put them all in, and we see an ace-high flop. Lucky, lucky me. Now my opponent goes into the tank, and he says he can't fold, but he hasn't folded yet. He hasn't called. He's really in the tank thinking about it, but ends up making the call, putting the rest of his chips in there with pocket kings. That's a pretty bad beat. Unlucky for him. I hold with my top pair of aces, In back-to-back hands, I'm climbing my chip stack up to 1.8 million chips. We're on the climb here. Next level, picking up Queen Jack offsuit in the low jack. I raise it up to 100,000 and get some action. The cutoff and big blind make the call, and we're both playing very deep stacks. So we're going to a flop which comes Jack, Jack 10 rainbow. That's a pretty good flop for me, I think. Action checks to me. I'm going to check it to my opponent, and he ends up checking back. So sadly, no action here on this flop. And the turn comes the 8. Brings in the backdoor flush draw, I believe. It comes in some straights and such. But when my opponent checks here, I certainly need to go for some value. I have trips. It's a very good hand. We want to pump some money into the middle, so I throw it 100,000. It's a very small bet multi-way, and I only get the big blind to make the call. So we're going heads up to river, which comes a bink jack. That's right, just quads. My opponent checks again, and I think it's time to overbet on a board like this. It's certainly going to have a lot of aces and kings and queens. That's basically the nuts. Have all the overpairs, have lots of bluffs to go along with it. So, on top of that, I also just have the stone cold nuts. I announce a very large overbet of 1 million. I get my chips out there slowly, of course. I mean, it's a really big bet. So most of the chip stacks that I've had goes into the middle. I get my chips out there and flickety flip flick, he puts in a chip, makes the call. Oh my goodness. Show the quads. I'm going to say that's the winner, sir. Massive pot gets shipped my way. This was an incredible one. I went really greedy, really big for value on the river, and it somehow all worked out. I assume my opponent had a 10 of some sorts, but here, chip stack, over 3 million chips, thanks to quads.
Wow. What an incredible last 4 hours, I think last time I spoke to you guys was. Last 4 hours of poker. Really swingy, a lot of ups and downs, and quads. And now I have 3.3 million chips cruising along on dinner break right now for like an hour. So there's 80 players left out of 37 that entered. And I have over double average chips, which is always a good sign. And that's all I have to say. Today's been incredible. Hopefully the next few more levels keep going well. And there's a day 3, so hoping to just be alive for the rest of the day. I'll go from there. But it's been a very good start since I started the day with 170K.
We're really starting to steamroll through this tournament right now. Level 26 comes. I pick up ace-3 of spades under the gun. I don't have to raise this, but I'm here to battle. I raise it up to 120,000, and I get a short stack player in the low jack going all in for, unfortunately, just 435,000. This is not fun, but given the blinds being so high, I don't know how I ever fold suited wheel ace. It's not much for me to call, so I'm in there, make the call. My opponent shows pocket 9s, but 35% chance to win against 9s, and I flop the ace. 35% is the winner. Literally steamrolling this tournament right now. Sun running everything. Chip stack over 4 million. Things are going well. In the following hand, we're playing a blind versus blind spot, so hopefully not an all-in, at least not to start. Picking up King 10 off suits, action folds to me. I'm going to use some friendly small ball and limp. My opponent checks his option. Going to a flop of King Jack 5, 2 spades, and a diamond. Certainly can go a bunch of different directions here with a bet or check. I decided to check this one with top pair, and my opponent bets 120,000. Definitely not a sizing I think I want to check raise. 2 big blinds, pretty large bets in a very small pot. I make the call with top pair. Turn comes a 4 now and brings in a backdoor flush draw, 2 flushers on the board. I check, and now my opponent bets 165,000. Not going to go anywhere. Certainly could think about raising at some frequency, but this time I'm just going to let him commit and continue firing. I make the call here, and the river is the 10 of diamonds. Brings in a backdoor flush draw, gets there. I have 2 pair. I check to my opponent, and he fires out 325,000. Certainly against, I think, some other opponents, I could be check raising here to get some value. But against this specific one, I think he's got air or the nuts. I make the call, not thinking I can get more value with a check raise. And he shows 8-4 offsuit. I show the King 10 offsuit. That's the winner. Nice to just keep on winning. After this hand and steamrolling for the past, couple levels, we actually end up going on a little bit of some card death. Here in level 28, I end up raise folding ace queen offsuit correctly under the gun over my opponent going all in for about 21 bigs. I fold, my opponent shows me the ace king offsuit face up. So that's what's going on, chipping down just a tad bit. There's 45 players left at level 28, and we're approaching level 29. Blinds have increased. I have just north of 3 million chips, and here in the big blind, picking up aces. That's right. Action folds to the small blind player who's the chip leader at the table. He ends up limping. Well, I won't stand for that because my hand is way too good. I make it 375,000, 3 big blinds, and my opponent makes the calls. So going heads up in position, blind versus blind. Flop comes king, 7, 6, 2 clubs. My opponent checks that over to me, and I think I'm going to bet this one. I have aces. It's pretty hard to see a flop I don't like. I bet 250,000 here, 2 big blinds, and my opponent actually makes the call. Going to a turn, which comes a 10. Doesn't really change a whole lot. I guess 8-9 gets there as a straight, and my opponent checks one more time, and I'm going to be betting again. This time sizing up to 850,000. And the next turn of events is going to be a little bit dicey. He check jams. Yep, he's all in. He covers my stack. And this is not a small all in. It's about 1.9 million chips more. He covers me. I count my stack. I don't think I can ever fold aces here, blind versus blind, but this is pretty gross. He's basically saying he has 2 pair, a straight, anything better than just 1 pair, that's for sure. I don't think my opponent's going to be overplaying top pair of kings ever like this, but gotta give my opponent some credit here. I'm never folding, but my opponent could be a little aggressive. So I make the call, and he shows 10-9 offsuit. Need to hold for my tournament life with aces. The river brick. Fat double up. When I needed it the most, when I was card dead, I had 3 million chips. Guess what, everyone? I have 7 million now. Aces hold in a massive spot with less than 40 players left in this tournament. We're running deep. I'm one of the chip leaders. Let's freaking go. Next situation, we get into another blind versus blind situation. I'm in the small blind with ace-4 offsuits. I am going to be all in as the big blind is short stacked, and he ends up making the call with 1.4 million chips. That's just shy of 10 big blinds at this stage of the tournament. He calls with king-jack offsuit. It's not a classic flip, but it is a flip. Let's go to a run-out. The magical ace on the turn. Nothing's going to stop me from winning this tournament, right? There's 26 players left. We've got piles, and we end up in the next situation. Another blind versus blind spot. Action folds to the small blind player who limps, and I pick up 10-4 of clubs in the big blind. Happy to check this one and see a flop, which comes 8-5-3 rainbow. My opponent checks it over to me here to start, and I have some mixed feelings about this flop. Certainly could go either way with a bet or check, and I decided to check. Going to a turn, which is the 7 of diamonds, so board a little bit more connected, brings in the backdoor flush draw. My opponent checks one more time, and I think this is a perfect card to start barreling and bluffing on now. So I decided to throw out about a 350,000. I have lots of hands that look like they could make straights, and we're just going to go for it. 350,000 to go. My opponent makes the call. Now we're going to a river, which is the deuce of diamonds. The backdoor flush draw gets there, which is not really a card that I wanted to see, but I do have a key card, which is a 4, which blocks a lot of the straights. So not going to slow down with 10 high. My opponent checks, and I'm going to fire at 1.1 million, which is basically pots. My opponent takes some time and ends up making the call, which is really painful. Proudly show the 10 high. My opponent proudly shows the ace-4 offsuit for a rivered straight. Did not decide to go for a check raise on the river here. He thought that was too thin, but very unfortunate to see that deuce. Thought it was a really good card for me to bluff on. Turns out it was a better card for my opponent. At this point into the night, we're at the final 2 tables of this tournament. 16 players left, and we are cruising here with 8 million chips. I pick up pocket queens. No better time to pick up premiums than the final 2 tables, right? Pick up queens in early position and raise it up to 500,000 with the blinds ever so increasing. Player to my left goes all in. Yep. That's an all-in of 1.7 million, never folding. I make the call. We're up against ace, 8 of hearts, fade the ace. I faded the hearts, but the ace was not able to be faded, unfortunately. That's a pretty tough blow. Always hate to lose that. My opponent doubles up, and I'm down to just under 6 million. And here you can see a quick little video. There are 4 players at my specific table, under 10 big blinds. Everyone is extremely shallow, and it feels like I have piles with 20 big blinds in my stack. And here we are, moving on to the next spot with King 7 offsuit in the small blind. Action folds to me. Player to my left that I just doubled up has about 10 big blinds, and someone who I think won't be calling off too light. So I'm all in with a king. He snap calls, which is horrible, and he has queens. Can it be my turn to suck out on your queens? They didn't hold for me. Let's hope it doesn't hold for him. Yeah, the red out comes, and who's surprised? It does end up holding for my opponent, and now my opponent has piles because I just doubled him up twice. I have very little chips now with just over 2 million, and here we're playing 7-handed with 15 players left. I looked down at Jack 10 of hearts. Yeah, it's gonna be all in. Some Broadway cards, they're suited with like literally no big blinds. I'm all in. The player to my left snap calls again. Holy crap. Am I going to literally ship my tournament life to this player to my left in back-to-back-to-back hands? It might be. Action ends up folding, and he shows ace, king. It's a fair flip. We're off to a run-out. Oh, somehow, some way, it's my turn to suck out on the river. Jack 10 beats the good old ace king, and we're still alive. There is still some life. Entering level 34, there are 11 players left. It's 2 a.m. in the morning, and I'm feeling a little bit delusional after a noon restart time. 14 hours of play. We need to have 2 more players to bust to make the final table, and we see Jacks versus King 10 offsuit. Jacks ends up holding and winning, and just like that, 10 players left in this tournament. 1 more to bust to be in the final table, and we see here, I have Ace King offsuit on the button. I have just over 5 million chips at this point, which is roughly 13 big blinds. I think about what I want to do. I could limp, I could bin raise, but at the end of the day, I think I need some protection and just to go all in. Small blind, folds, big blind, thinks about it for a while, and this is a little scary, to be honest. My opponent covers me, and he ends up making the call. Oh my goodness. For my tournament life, he covers me for over 10 million chips. Need to win this one. My opponent has ace 9. We're a massive favorite. Let's win. And we're out. Wow. Runner straight versus the ace 9. And that's, my friends, is how I came oh so close to a $440,000 payout from a $1,000 buy-in tournament. And I'm out. I'm out in 10th place. That doesn't feel good, but good luck to the rest of my opponents that were in this. They all get to go home and get some sleep before starting up day 3 in the final table of this tournament. But not me. I'm the final table bubble after this very devastating hand.
I'm more tilted than this fucking guy.
Thanks for coming, buddy. I'm glad you could see, what's going on. What's going on, Dustin?
What's up, dude?
Well, it's 2:15 in the morning, and I'm actually okay after that beat. FT bubble in the 1K, cashed out for 39,300, which is really huge. I mean, 440,000 for first place is insane. I gave it my all, and I'm actually not upset. You guys have seen me way more upset before, and I'm actually totally fine. Big shout out to Karan and not everyone that came to like rail at the very end, gave me a boost of energy. But today was a really long day. Played 14 hours of poker and ended up making a profit. It would have been nice to have that ace-king hold and have no 7 or 9 on the river, but it is what it is. Yeah, I don't know. It's a really long day. Thanks for the support, real time. Thanks for watching this video. I guess like main takeaway, if I try my best, I'm actually not upset. And I ran really well the whole day until the very end, and that's gonna happen. Anyways, this music's getting loud. I might get copyright strike, so thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Leave a like in this video for some of the pain. There was some pain at the end. Hit that like button. It means a lot. Peace.